go. We got the whole hour today. We don't have to jerk around with getting out. Chuck, do you know everybody here know that's Riggi?
No.
Chuck,
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 nice to meet you.
Dave Tanner. Davey.
Nice to meet you, sir. Nice to meet you.
Paul Vandenburgh, television show live taping with Vince Riggi. You can switch that for if you want. Huh? We'll have switch. Switch one.
The opinions expressed in the Paul Vandenburgh Show are those of the participants and are not necessarily the opinions of My 4 Albany WNYA. From the CDTA Rensselaer Rail Station, Trustco Bank, and My 4 Albany present the Paul Vandenburgh Show.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We welcome you to the CDTA train station where we broadcast live just about every day, 9 out of 10 anyway. And we are here live this afternoon, Wednesday. We're going to start, though, with the only non-Democratic member of the Schenectady City Council, Vince Riggi, who has long been an observer, if I may, of government in Schenectady. Is that fair?
That's right.
Is observer fair?
That's correct.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming over.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
We had the mayor over a couple of weeks ago, and I had promised that we'd get some more folks from Schenectady over, and it's great to see you. You are in the non-advantageous position on what is now a 6-member council.
Yes.
Of being the only outsider, if I may, the only non-Democrat. Problem?
Not really. I mean, so far, we've actually, some of us have banded together on certain issues, and it's different.
You know, it's funny, Vince, when I look at the makeup over there, I don't know Denise Brucker. She's the president, but I've followed her career. Right. The other players I'm not familiar with at all. Gary McCarthy, the newly elected mayor, I'm familiar with. And I don't necessarily think he'll be a bad thing for the city. But I see probably the most important guy in the council is you, because you get to oversee this crowd who are going to bond together and make a lot of their decisions on their own, and you're going to have to be the antagonist in many cases. Is that the role you see yourself playing?
Yes, and actually I had like almost 20 years of practice at that by going to council meetings, so it's not that difficult for me.
Let me give people a little background on Vince Riggi, and I'll let him correct whatever I'm wrong at. Vince, as he pointed out, has been a 20-year follower of government in Schenectady. He's been attending city council meetings. He and Pat Zollinger, I think, are the two people in Schenectady who did the best job all these years of keeping an eye on the council without being members. I believe you ran once before, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you were defeated, but not by much, if I remember.
Yeah, it was quite a bit, but it was in the Elliot Spitzer year. It was 2006.
Okay.
So it was almost 2,000 votes that I got beat by.
Okay, that's a lot.
I got a lot of votes. I only had one line. I got 5,500 votes, but it wasn't enough.
Right. This time you ran on. Did you run with the Alliance Party support?
Yes, the Alliance Party support and the Republican Party endorsed me.
And you were not expected, if I may, by anyone to really win. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, boom, you slipped in. Yeah. It might have been the last count. And all of a sudden, you were elevated to a seat.
I don't even know what happened, except the reporter came up to me and said, "How do you feel that you want a seat on the city council?" I said, "What?"
Oh, you didn't know?
No. And actually, I came within about 160 votes of Denise Brucker, who was the top vote getter for the council seat.
It was that close?
Yeah, I'm third, but close, within 160 votes, the three of us.
Tell me about Election Day last year. Did you expect to win? Did you think you had a shot?
I was cautiously non-optimistic, I would say, because everybody kept saying, "What's the matter?" You know, I wasn't expecting anything.
Right. What do you think the difference was this time, Vince? How do you think you made it? It's a Democratic city. I mean, there's no.
It is.
Let's not get carried away. They've elected a couple of Republicans.
Yeah.
But it's still a Democratic city, and it's hard to get over the top unless you're running for mayor.
Yeah.
Because in the last 20 years, we've seen Al Trzynski elected twice, Frank Ducey.
Yes.
So they'll elect a Republican mayor.
Yes.
But they've been very adverse to electing a Republican or an outsider. You're actually an independent, right?
Yes, I'm
an outsider to the city council that's non-Democrat. What do you think did it for you?
My message was loud and clear when I campaigned, and it was basically, I want to see zero tolerance for minor quality of life issues in the city. I think that is so important because I've lived in Schenectady all my life. Every year of my 66, I've lived in the city of Schenectady. I didn't do a lot of traveling or anything. And I saw Schenectady in its heyday, knew what it was, and I know what it is today. But it really bothers me, some of these minor, so-called, if they're minor issues, like loud music, graffiti, litter, all these things. That was my platform. It was simple. In every neighborhood meeting I went to, people were cheering because I was sending the message, I want zero tolerance, I want the city cleaned up.
Quality of life issues.
That was it. That was it. That's what every neighborhood wants that.
Rudy Giuliani got elected on that platform down in New York City, and it worked for him, and I think it'll work for you. Tell me a little bit about when you ran last year. It wasn't a traditional Democrat-Republican election in Schenectady last year because early on, about a year ago or thereabouts, a group in Schenectady came up with this thing called the Alliance Party.
Correct.
And they were going to be the substitute for the Republican Party.
Correct.
And they wanted their candidates, led by Roger Hull, to run with Republican backing.
Yes.
But they weren't Republicans.
No.
Some were.
There was 2 Republicans on the ticket. One Democrat, myself, a blank, and Roger was a blank.
And they decided to do this alliance thing when, I've thought from the beginning, if they simply ran as Republicans, they probably would have won everything. You think I'm wrong?
There's a possibility.
Maybe not the city council, but they would have won the mayor's
There's so many dynamics, it's really hard to say what would happen and what wouldn't have happened.
In fact, if you go back to a year ago right now, I think the consensus pretty much was that Gary McCarthy was not going to be elected mayor. Is that fair?
I would say that's true.
And Gary, lo and behold, winds up becoming mayor. And I think a lot of it had to do with a poor campaign on the part of Roger Hull and the others around him. Is that fair to say?
I would say there was a lot of inexperience.
All right, that's fair.
Probably of all the candidates, I think I had the most experience only because I've been involved in the government. I ran once before, so I was the experienced candidate. And sometimes inexperience can come back to bite you.
So you get in, and now you're a member of the city council. And let me talk about, before we'll get our first break in a moment, but let's talk about the fact that there are allegedly seven members of the city council, but right now there's only 6. And that's because Gary McCarthy's seat is open.
Correct.
He was elected mayor. That opened a seat on the city council.
Correct.
And it hasn't been filled because there were promises made to 2 people.
Correct.
You want to tell the story about that? Because you played an integral role in this.
John Mudavaran was the endorsed Democratic candidate for council, and he lost that seat.
And nobody thought he'd lose.
Nobody thought he'd lose. Actually, he was winning by just a few over Peggy King. And when they opened up the absentee ballots, he wound up losing by maybe 30 to 40 votes, something like that. So he was expecting to be appointed. There was talk he was going to be appointed to that open seat by the majority of the council. But lo and behold, a girl named Marion Porterfield, she was promised that seat by the hierarchy of the Democratic Party if she wouldn't primary for one of the seats when they had their primaries for the Democratic seat.
We'll put you in Gary's seat.
Yes.
So you have promises, well, not promises to 2 people, but Butravaran felt that he should get the seat because he lost.
The fly in the ointment with that was me, because they didn't expect me to win. They expected they would have swept the 4 seats. Gary's seat would have been open. They put the losing candidate in there and everybody's happy.
So they go to take a vote a couple of weeks ago to put Butravaran in. The vote would have been 3-2. But you jump up and you cast a 3rd vote for the person that had for Porterfield. We had 2. That made it 3-3. So now the seat is empty. And it looks like it may stay that way all year.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, Butravaran just said he doesn't want it anymore.
Since he dropped out, it wouldn't surprise me if in the next cycle or 2 they'll have enough votes to do that. I can't stop it this time around. I cannot stop it.
They'll do 4 at least.
Unfortunately, what happened, I'll just give you a quickie. It's supposed to be every corporation council, even past corporation, it's a majority of the city council is needed to fill an appointment. And that, with even 6,
that's 4.
With my high school education, I know that's 4.
That's 4.
But all of a sudden, the night of the vote, it came out. All of a sudden, they're looking at Second City's law and saying, no, it's just a simple majority will do it. So they expected me to abstain or vote for maybe a Republican candidate or something. Well, I saw what was happening, and I wasn't going to let that happen.
Did anybody say anything to you about? Did Denise Brucker bring that up to you at all? Anybody?
No, they did.
They just figured we better leave this alone.
Yes.
All right. Vince Riggi's here. He's a member of the Schenectady City Council, the only non-Democrat. We got a lot to talk to him about, and we'll get to some more substantial issues and non-political issues about the city of Schenectady in a moment. Later on, we're going to talk to Charlie Witt from the Spotlight newspaper, and we'll talk to him about Malta and what's going on up there. We're back with Vince Riggi at the CDTA train station in a moment. You're watching My 4 Albany. I'm Paul Vandenburgh. Stay with us.
We now return to the Paul Vandenburgh Show, presented by Trustco Bank on My 4 Albany.
Okay, we're back with Vince Riggi, newly elected last year, member of the Schenectady City Council. It's a 4-year term for you, right?
Correct.
4 years.
Yep.
Okay, you've been watching all the shenanigans in that city for over 20 years. You lived there all your life. How bad is Schenectady? Give me a little good, give me a little bad. What's the worst part right now of living in and dealing with the city of Schenectady?
I think it's the quality of life, I think, in our neighborhoods.
The issues you ran on.
Yes, our neighborhoods need stabilization, and they have a lot of attention went to downtown, and that's good. I have no problem with that. But we were been promised by elected officials the last 2 or 3 cycles they were going to address the neighborhoods. It still hasn't happened. And now we have Mount Pleasant that's in serious trouble, the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. There's pockets of Mount Pleasant that are in very, very bad shape.
Blight?
With, yes, a lot of blight and a lot of just bad people hanging around.
All right.
So,
Non-existent ownership?
Yes. A lot of drug activity. I mean, can you prove it's drug activity? You can see it.
Sure.
I have it in my neighborhood too, in Bellevue. I live in Bellevue, and I have it in my neighborhood.
Right. You know, Vince, I get a little annoyed at this when this comes up, and I'll tell you why. Your city spends a lot of money on police. Okay? Are they doing their job?
I haven't looked into it that much. I would like to see them do more of a job. I would like to see more presence.
Let me be more specific. We're here today, it's Wednesday afternoon, we're talking about police issues, okay? Last night at the meeting over there, Mark Charis was there, the police chief.
Yes, he was.
And the big issue is cops taking cars home.
Yeah.
And not only taking cars home, but they don't live in Schenectady, these guys. And the Gazette did a good job of that this morning. Charis lives in Scotia, guys in Malta, guys outside of the city. So here are your cars leaving your city while the neighborhoods are going. I got a real issue with that.
Paul, years ago, and there was a thing, cop, teacher next door. Well, there's a reason for that. If we had more police that lived in Schenectady, their presence would be here 24/7. All the time it'd be here. It makes a difference. A lot of them do not live in the city. There's a very small number that do live in the city. And that's a big issue.
Right. Wayne Bennett is the superintendent over there now.
He's our commissioner.
Excuse me. Charis is a guy that gets a lot of love. He does. People like him. But the issues in the streets over there, the issues in the neighborhoods are still there. Can the cops do a better job?
Well, I would like to see street patrols. You talk about Mark Charis. His dad, Art Charis, he was a foot patrolman in Hamilton Hill, which wasn't called Hamilton Hill. Our family business was on Craig Street in Hamilton Hill for years and years. So I saw that deteriorate through the years. But he walked the beat. He knew what kids belonged there, what kids should have been home, and he told them so. He was the last of that group that really put his feet to the floor and saw what was going on.
Would a stronger police presence help the issues you're concerned with?
Definitely.
All right, they would. Have you talked to chairs about it?
Not as of yet. I've talked to Brian Kilcullen. He's an assistant chief, and he seems to be on the same page.
Okay. How many cops now? Is it like 130?
I think around
140.
It's supposed to be 145. I think we're just under, so I'm going to say between 130 and 140.
Is that
I don't know exactly. I think it should be, but we'll be told that it isn't enough.
All right. By the union?
Yes.
What about chairs? Do you think he has?
I haven't talked to him about that yet, so I'm going to.
You know, the history of police in Schenectady is so poor. So poor. How overall, with Wayne Bennett there, I mean, Wayne Bennett gets brought in, and Wayne Bennett winds up getting rid of 10 of these guys. How is the police department today? Is it better? Is it coming out? What are you thinking?
I was a big outspoken person about the police department years ago, what we went through years ago with some of the cops that we had. All that nonsense that went on back then. I do see a change in the police. I've seen it since Wayne Bennett took over. And I know there's some people, and even politicians, that say, well, why do we need a public safety commissioner? Well, right now, since he's come in, he's added integrity, more integrity to that department than I've seen in many years.
He's a professional guy, and the one thing that he's done that nobody else would do is he's gotten rid of the debris over there.
Yes, he has.
A lot of it. I mean, 10 cops last year got fired over there. That's unheard of.
Yes, it is.
It's unprecedented. But it had to send a message. in the police department that we're going to toe the line here, right?
Yes.
And it
yes.
seems to be carrying over a little bit?
It is. It is, because that message is being heard loud and clear.